Week 1 overreactions are flying in, but I'll tell you, I do think the Los Angeles Rams run away with the NFC West. That and more on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready, Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome in to the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the Madman, joined today by Locked On NFL expert, the Brain, Luke Braun, coming off a great Minnesota Vikings comeback. But on today's episode, we're going to talk about all of these Week 1 overreactions. I'm going to tell you why I'm not quite ready to be excited about the New York Jets. I'll tell you why I don't buy that the Indianapolis Colts are good all of a sudden, but I'll tell you that I don't think it's an overreaction to think that the Rams will run away with the West. Before we get into all of it, I do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen and for being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. The Los Angeles Rams got a big-time win over the Houston Texans, and looking at the way they performed, it's possible this might be the best Rams team since 2001? I don't know. Locked On Rams.
There's a Super Bowl in there.
I know, but Locked On Rams thinks that might be the case.
Nate Peanut Punch Landman saves the day for the Rams. The Texans were driving down 14-9, a chance to steal this one late after the Rams were going to ice this one, and tight end Colby Parkinson had fumbled at the 12-yard line. The Texans got the ball. They were driving it. They had the ball near the red zone, and linebacker Nate Landman, he punched it out at Ngumawale's arms. The Rams get the recovery, an incredible recovery by Braden Fisk, goes full Superman on the recovery, and then on the ensuing drive, on third down, 3rd and 8, Sean McVay, instead of running the football, goes aggressive, gets the completion, a 29-yard completion to Puka Nacua to ice this one. A epic game one for the Rams, able to steal this one. The biggest takeaway, all the talk about the Rams offense, adding Devontae Adams, but this Rams defense has the potential to be elite, and we could see a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense for the Rams for the first time since 2001.
So, maybe
Okay.
You see what I mean? They could be top 10 in both categories. I think that's right. And I think out of all the overreactions coming out of Week 1, I 100% believe that the Rams will run away with the NFC West. There may be some competition, but with all the news in the division, I think that this is far and away the Rams' division to win. I don't think there's going to be much competition for them, and I don't think thinking that is an overreaction to Week 1.
Look, this is not far from where I was going into Week 1.
Exactly.
And I didn't see anything. The thing about Week 1 is, hey, Week 1 lies. It happens. But it kind of confirmed all the priors in the NFC West, right? You saw exactly what you thought you'd see out of the Rams. And I think you should have expected that from that defense as well. That's a good roster, especially up front. But if you look elsewhere at the NFC West, who's challenging them? The Seahawks are exactly who we were worried that they would be. You bring in Sam Darnold, you put him behind a patchwork O-line, and you lose the game on a strip sack. Yeah. I know you talked yesterday a lot about the 49ers, their injury issues. Now George Kittle is officially on IR. Yep. He's going to miss at least 4 weeks with a hamstring injury. Brock Purdy's banged up. The injury bug is biting them, which they played into that. I mean, they really continued to buy into players with injury histories. You can't expect to stay healthy when you do that. So even though the 49ers won that game, I don't really walk away from that 49ers Seahawks game feeling that great about either of those teams. And to me, this is my overreaction that I kind of believe. The Cardinals are if anybody's going to take it, it's the Cardinals. Yep. And I know it was just the Saints, and the Saints are supposed to be terrible, and that the Cardinals didn't hang 50 on them or whatever. But the Cardinals are a physical, grind-you-out team that will be a tough out in any game, no matter who they are playing. And when they're playing a team that's worse than them, they might not beat that team by as much as you would hope. But that's going to be a tough out. And I think Cardinals-Rams, that series this year is going to be really big. If the Cardinals can steal one of those, or maybe even both of those, that is, I think, what it's going to take to give the Rams competition. But I'm with you that, like, I don't think that that's going to happen. I think the Cardinals are going to be the closest thing to it.
Right.
But I wouldn't put money on it.
Yeah, 100% I'm with you there. I do think the Cardinals will be a good football team. I think they'll be fighting for the wild card, but I just don't think that they're quite on the level of the Rams. But like you said, maybe it's just a little bias, just confirming my priors here, but I always believed in the Rams. I thought that they were a great team coming into the season, and getting a good win on the road against the Texans, I think that kind of proves what I was thinking about there. But talking about another week one overreaction that I'm absolutely believing, and it's the Miami Dolphins are doomed. And my guy Kyle Krabs, obviously not impressed over at the Locked On Dolphins podcast.
Miami Dolphins fell to the Indianapolis Colts in week one by a final score of 33-8 in a result that should have a lot of Dolphins fans asking a lot of hard questions. The Dolphins said all the right things this offseason, but as far as total buy-in and communication and leadership and healthy changes, you didn't really see a whole lot of any of that in week one. Dolphins stumbled out the blocks, were anemic on offense facing Lou Anarumo's defense. And the discouraging thing is Tua Tagovailoa said after the game that the Colts really didn't run a whole lot of things that the Dolphins didn't expect. It was simply the execution element of it. Bradley Chubb, another one of the team captains, saying after the game that the Dolphins were making their own stuff up and not playing team football. This is the kind of stuff that Mike McDaniel can ill afford if he's going to survive the 2025 offseason, and that seat is certainly getting a lot hotter after week one.
I mean, last week I kind of talked about first coach fired, bold predictions. Maybe it's not a bold prediction to say Mike McDaniel will be the first coach fired because he was probably favored. Yeah, he was favored in the odds on FanDuel anyways, but
he is?
I think week one absolutely confirmed all the concerns, and Bradley Chubb's comment right there about people doing their own thing. Miami is a team full of mercenaries that doesn't respect their coach. So everything you're seeing from them basically just looks exactly like what you would think it was. Miami they play the Patriots this week, and we were talking about this right before we hit the on-air button, and they have to win this game against the Patriots, or I think things unravel quickly, and Mike McDaniel won't make it to Halloween.
You are hosting the weakest team in your division.
Unless it's you.
Unless it's you.
Unless you are the weakest team,
And again, the Dolphins were sold here as a power of the AFC. They walked into the last 2 or 3 seasons thinking that they can challenge the Bills for the division, that they can make a run in the playoffs. You gotta look good here. You gotta figure it out. Week one can be weird. Very famously, week one can do stuff that you look back on once it's week 10 going, whoa, that was crazy. Yeah, there's stuff like that every single year.
Right.
I remember a couple of years ago, an MVP Packers Aaron Rodgers season started with a blowout to a Saints team that wasn't even good.
Right.
It happens. So you have to pull it together. How do you pull it together? And my worry with the Dolphins is that what we saw against the Colts wasn't fluky. It was existential. It drew from the foundation of the Dolphins being fundamentally under-innovated, which for Mike McDaniel is really rough. That is not the reputation that he has. It should look more dynamic and different from what we've seen in the last 2 years, but it's still the same motions. It's still a lot of the same concepts, and it's a lot of the same problems. I don't know where you go from here, Mike McDaniel, if you just kind of trotted out the same playbook that didn't get you there the last couple years. People have a beat on that. They've figured out that Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are fast and what they have to do to defend that. And if you don't have the counterpunch, how are you going to move the ball consistently? I'm really worried about the Dolphins fundamentally not having enough.
I think Mike McDaniel goes to the TV booth for a year because he's a quirky, interesting personality, and then he goes back to being a good offensive coordinator in the NFL and a guy who maybe just may not be head coach material. Now we're hearing some rumors that, Tyreek Hill, the Chiefs could be interested. If you're the Dolphins, I think if you can get off Tyreek Hill with all of his off-field struggles and his money and his personality in the locker room,
burning
I would
on
absolutely
someone's
do it.
doorstep.
Well, I personally think the Chiefs should be the one to go back and do the reunion. I think Tyreek Hill has a better chance of staying on his best behavior in the middle of Kansas City than he does down on South Beach in Miami. So I think that makes a ton of sense. But speaking of Miami, the team that they got smoked by was the Indianapolis Colts. And some folks are overreacting, saying Daniel Jones is going to be this year's Sam Darnold. And I'm sorry, I'm not ready to buy it. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because however I decide to play, I can find a way to do it, whether it's player props, or whether I want to build a same game parlay, whether I want to jump into the action and do a little bit of live betting. I can do all of it easily on FanDuel. Again, it's quick, it's easy, it's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. Again, right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Today's episode is also brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. You need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, a dedicated support line. Make sure you visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. Once again, that's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, Luke, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. We're doing Week 1 overreactions. We just told you what we do believe is not an overreaction from Week 1, but something that is real. Now I want to get into some overreactions that we saw from Week 1 that I'm simply not buying into. And we got to start again with that Colts and Dolphins game. And listen, Daniel Jones made some great plays out there, and the Colts offense did what it had to do, but the defense looked good as well. And my guy Jake Arthur from Locked On Colts talked about that.
And then defensively, just smothered one of the most high-octane offenses in the league. Got 3 takeaways, sacked 2 or 3 times. And the way they made big plays was very unique. You got a couple sacks from defensive backs, Kenny Moore and Nick Cross. You got an interception from a defensive end in Laiatu Latu. So everything coming in this game was just aces. You know, Shane Steichen and Lou Anarumo, absolute masterclass in play calling. This was absolute perfection. They nearly had a shutout until later in the game, but I think you can certainly live with a 33-8 victory. 1-0, heading back here to Lucas Oil Stadium next week to defend things against the Denver Broncos. It's a playoff team.
Listen, I think Daniel Jones deserves his credit. The Colts do have some things on the roster. It's not a completely barren roster or anything like that. But I'm sorry, I'm just not buying that Daniel Jones hit a renaissance like Sam Darnold last year. I come back to this, and it goes back to what we talked about.
He did spend like 8 seconds with Kevin O'Connell, so maybe just fixed him.
You're right. We can't rule that out. Kevin O'Connell has that magic.
I don't know what they're
fairy
putting in the
dust
smoothie
for quarterbacks.
bars, man. It's
what are they doing in
He didn't
Minnesota?
do anything.
Yeah. Just being there by proxy is going to give him a little osmosis there. But I guess what it comes down to is when I look at that outcome, I think that's more about the Dolphins being tragic and doomed and the Dolphins not having a soul right now than it is about the Colts all of a sudden like, oh, they got rid of Anthony Richardson. They're going to be a good competitive team this year. If I'm wrong about that, then great. I'll be wrong about that. But Week 1 overreaction that I'm not buying, it's that the Colts are good and Daniel Jones is going to resurrect his career here.
You got to see a little more of that, right? Good
Yes.
for you. I don't want to take anything away from the Colts blowing out another NFL team, even if I think that NFL team is in a bad way right now. Still an NFL team. There's no Alcorn State in the NFL, right? There's no cupcakes. So good for you, and you get all the credit in the world. This feels like one of those easy week one, don't overreact to it kind of things. I would love to see it a little bit more, but hey, maybe Daniel Jones is finally found the rhythm, or maybe that's just the right pairing or the right thing. They're asking exactly the right amount from him or whatever.
Yeah.
And sure, right? But I do it because it runs counter to some of the other stuff we heard out of Indianapolis before the season, that a lot of people in Indy, including Jake, thought that Anthony Richardson had outplayed Daniel Jones, and there was a little surprised to see that they were going this direction. It went well for them in the first game, and I'm not going to dismiss that, but I'm not going to put it in Sharpie until I see it a couple more times. And I don't think that that's unfair to ask for.
And listen, I will promise this to the Locked On NFL listeners. This week, the Denver Broncos go to Indianapolis and play the Colts. And let me just say, the Denver Broncos defense ain't the Miami Dolphins defense. That's 100% for sure. So if Daniel Jones and the Colts, and look, what happened was the Colts got up big early. So they basically could just salt the game away at the end. Daniel Jones never felt the pressure of, the game script being tight and all these different things. The game was fully in control for the Colts by halftime, essentially. So, I think that made Daniel Jones play freer and with less pressure and better, you know what I mean? It ain't going to be like that in Denver. And I will say this again, I will promise to the Locked On NFL listeners, if the Colts smack up the Denver Broncos defense and Daniel Jones looks like a world beater against the Broncos, then I will come on here and say, wow, maybe he is improved. Maybe they are going to be a decent team this year. But against the Dolphins, 1 week, game script, getting up early, all of that, I'm sorry, I'm just not buying it. I don't think the Colts are a good football team this year. I'm not ready to go that far. But Luke, what's something that was an overreaction from week one that maybe you're not buying into?
I think people are being way too crazy about the Lions. It was not a good, it's similar to the Seahawks, in which all of our concerns materialized in front of us and led to a loss, right?
Yes.
You had O-line problems. We were worried about that. The offense looked static, and we were worried about the brain drain, and we're worried about that. But there is just something to Dan Campbell that I am just willing to give him a couple of mulligans. We've never asked him to get for a mulligan before in the last couple of years when they've been true contenders. And I don't think we're people are great, the Lions are over and they're going to be at 8-9. Chill out. Okay. Let a bad game happen. Going into that game. And I was talking to Peter Bukowski about this off air, about how the Packers went 1-5 last year in the division. And how that was it just had to be such an emphasis for them in the offseason to win those divisional games specifically. I really think the Packers rolled into that one thinking with a Super Bowl mentality, with a playoff, we got to win this or we are worth a damn. And I don't think the Lions rolled in with that mentality. They tried to approach it like just another game. And I think the Packers just brought a little more. And they had to, because they were so worked up about going 1-5 in the division. So I'm not taking that game as a full-on definitive answer on either of those teams. And I still think the Lions have a lot of talent. I still believe in Goff, and I believe in what Dan Campbell can build. That doesn't mean that those concerns aren't still there, and those concerns were proven for sure. They are concerns. But I'm absolutely, I just think that over the last 2 years, Detroit has earned the right for a little bit of the benefit of the doubt and a little bit of a mulligan.
And that's certainly an understandable position to take. But what are they saying in Detroit? My guy, Matt Derry from Locked On Lions.
Lions fall in their season opener at Green Bay today, 27-13 to the Packers. This game was really never in doubt from start to finish. Green Bay dominated on both sides of the football. They won in all three phases, including special teams. Lions could never get their offense going. It just was not a good day for this team. And you saw the newness of that interior of the offensive line with Mahogany and Glasgow and Ratledge. All three struggled. Micah Parsons got a sack and a few pressures on Jared Goff. There was the Goff interception. It just was not a good day for this team, really anywhere. They got to flush this one and get ready for the Bears. and the home opener next Sunday at 1 o'clock at Ford Field. But the Lions got their butts handed to them today by a very good Packers team. More on Locked On Lions coming up.
There's one thing I want to
go ahead.
say. I guess I'll clarify. I think whoever in the division got the first one against the Packers was never going to win. That's the way I see it. And Micah Parsons ended up, I think, with 2 pressures on the day, but a lot of impact kind of unseen by the stat sheet.
100, and then he had the sack at the very end to kind of close things out. And
right, which was one of those 2.
It felt super symbolic, in my opinion. That's why I got to tell you, Luke, I do disagree with you on this one. I came into the season saying I thought the Lions would take a big step back. Now, I don't think that they're going to go 8-9 and miss the playoffs, so maybe we don't disagree entirely, but I do think the Packers are clear and away the best team in the division. I thought that they would win the division. I think the Packers are going to the Super Bowl, so maybe I'm just confirming my own biases here, but I do believe that what we saw in that game is real. I do, because I think losing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, I think that's huge. And I don't know that I do trust Dan Campbell, but it's an early season result. There's going to be plenty of time for the Lions to get back, and they're going to beat up on bad teams too. So I don't think there's any way that the Lions are missing the playoffs as of right now. But let's go to some overreactions that we're not quite certain how we feel about quite yet. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. You can make every drive feel like anything but normal, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. I personally drive a Mazda, and I love my Mazda vehicle, and I know that you will too. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every moment count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move or be moved. All right, Luke, let's cap off today's edition of Locked On NFL. We're talking about all these week 1 overreactions, what we believe, what we don't believe, and now I want to talk about some things that maybe I'm not quite certain about just yet. And one of the big things that stands out to me, Luke, is the performance of Bo Nix. So obviously I cover the Tennessee Titans on a daily basis, and in my crossover with Sayer Bedinger from Locked On Broncos, he mentioned that people in Denver were cautiously optimistic. They didn't really seem fully bought into, hey, this team's great, they're going to move forward. There's a lot of cautious optimism there. And then you see the way that Bo Nix performed, and it's maybe kind of hitting on that nerve a little bit for Broncos fans, even if they won ugly against the Titans. And my guy Cody Roark talked about that after the game.
The Denver Broncos are 1-0. Sean Payton wanted the team to get off to a fast start. That did not happen against the Tennessee Titans. Bo Nix and the Broncos offense, that is a troubling storyline here after week 1 against Tennessee. Nix had 3 turnovers on the day, a fumble, 2 interceptions. He did not look like the quarterback that we saw last week. Could it be week 1 jitters? Could the Broncos be off to yet another slow start offensively? That looked like the case in the run game. It was non-existent until R.J. Harvey burst off a huge 50-yard run to give the Broncos some momentum. But the story of the game, defensively, the Broncos got after rookie Cam Ward. They made his life miserable. They pressured him, they hit him, and they forced him to turn the football over late in the game. Here's the Broncos hold on to go 1-0. Next up, Indianapolis. For more, check out Locked On Broncos.
Bo Nix was the lowest graded quarterback in the NFL in week 1 per Pro Football Focus. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Bo Nix played well. He had 2 just absolutely disgusting interceptions where he did not read the coverage. He did not anticipate that the defensive back would peel off to cut off the route that he was throwing to. So I thought it was obviously not a good game for Bo Nix, but he took advantage when he needed to. When they needed big plays, he found a way to make them. And I don't think that this is the beginning of a sophomore slump regression for Bo Nix, like a lot of people think, or at least I'm not ready to say I believe it or don't believe it. I'm kind of still up in the air on it right now.
He's never beating the Mac Jones allegations, man.
I loved his fire. He was really mad throughout the game. He was mad at his coach about not getting the plays in early. He was mad at some of his teammates for their mistakes. I appreciated his fire, though.
Yeah, I think if that game turns another way, you start. I think that starts to get sold as dysfunction, right? Winning cures everything, though. Then it was very inspired, right?
Yep.
But I like the Mac Jones thing is. This sort of mid-first round quarterback that everybody kind of thought shouldn't have been drafted that high, that has a promising rookie season, but you go into year 2 saying, okay, that was good for a rookie, but now you need to be good, period. You need to take some kind of step forward to be a little bit more explosive and a little bit less. I didn't look into it nearly as much as somebody like Cody has, but the word hand-holding keeps coming up in the way that people who really deep dived that rookie season said that, the training wheels were on a little bit, which is fine. He's a rookie, right? But the training wheels need to come off. And if the training wheels came off and it turned into a catastrophe, then
you wrecked your bike.
Yeah, that's concerning. I think I'm in the same place as I am with the Colts, where I'm willing to buy it, but I need it a little more. I need to see a couple more before I put it in Sharpie. But yeah, I think we're right to be very concerned and start sounding alarm bells. Everybody quick take a look at Denver and see if you like what you see for the next couple weeks.
Well, I think it's something to keep an eye on no matter what. It's not something that we say, hey, I believe that, I don't believe that. It's just something that you kind of got to put a pin in and say, I don't really know if that's right or wrong just yet. But another thing that we got to look at is the AFC East, because one team didn't win their game, but it sure was encouraging. And my guy, John Butchko from Locked On Jets, talked about that.
Hey, I'm not saying it's a moral victory. You should be disappointed in the loss. The Jets let one get away. But I also would say that there are takeaways from this game and things that should not be hard to clean up, and things that the Jets did well that should not be hard to replicate. If we fix the bad, if we continue the good, this could be a Jets team that surprises people, because you have to remember the expectations for this team for most people are that they're going to end up with the top 5 pick. I'll say this: Jets may not have won the game, but they did not look like a top 5 drafting team in.
I'm kind of with him on that. I mean, I don't know how good the Jets will be. That's why they're in this section. I don't quite know how I feel about the Jets right now, but I don't feel like they'll be a bottom 5 team.
I'm so much more in on the Jets now than I'm comfortable with. I don't like it. They're so endearing. Oh no. But I thought the biggest thing is that Justin Fields looked as good as he has ever looked in Pittsburgh, in Chicago. They might have figured out. Look, he's in year 5 now, so the game's slowing down a little bit, and maybe all that talent can finally come forward. And we've now we're seeing these late career renaissances all over the league. It's not hard to believe that Justin Fields is a different guy than he was in 2022, right? Yeah. But there's a lot of talent on these Jets, and they always were in the corner of my eye as this team maybe we should pay attention to, especially all that talent on defense up front.
Yes.
Will McDonald, Sauce Gardner in the back.
He's breaking out. Will McDonald is disgusting. He's going nuts.
They've got talent. This is not a barren team by any stretch of the imagination. I want to see that defense with all that talent do a little better against the Steelers. But hey, Aaron Rodgers in revenge mode. When Aaron Rodgers is in spite mode, it's a different thing. I've seen it,
a petty king. We stand a
petty
king.
Petty Aaron Rodgers is a different animal. Okay, I'm not gonna hold that against you too bad. And I walked away from that game thinking I don't know, man. These guys can probably steal quite a few that maybe they're not even favored in, and be a feisty team that we're talking about deep into December and into even January. I could see this team sneaking into the playoffs after 1 week. It's only 1 week, and I don't know what to make of the Steelers either, and there's a lot of question marks swirling around that whole game. Makes it for a great week 1 matchup. But I don't know. I look everywhere, and I'm I don't know. There's some dogs on this team, man. I kind of like it. I dig it. I'm in.
No,
go Jets.
You're 100% right. And look, I don't hide it. I'm a Buckeye through and through. I'm from Ohio. Love my Ohio State Buckeyes. Seeing Garrett Wilson and Justin Fields reunited out there making plays. Garrett Wilson playing on fire. I absolutely love that. And also Armand Membo, their rookie offensive tackle. he looked good.
Yeah.
That's a good sign. Like Will McDonald, like that's a good sign that some of these young players are looking good right away or looking better than they had before. The Jets actually play the Bills this week. And, if the Jets were able to pull off an upset after an emotional, big, primetime win for the Bills, man, the Jets conversations would be very interesting. I would just have to take the day off and let you and Louis DiBiase come in here and hype up the Jets because you guys both love the Jets.
Yeah, well, and here's the other part of this. The Bills, they own the AFC East until otherwise proven, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is all hypothesization. But there was a problem with that defense. I know that, like, not everybody has their Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, and that's a unique challenge.
Yeah.
But, man, they got kind of bullied up front for most of that game. I'm a little concerned about that. I mean, you give up 40, I'm going to be concerned about the defense no matter who you're playing. So I'm, like, a little concerned about the Bills' defense. But, hey, it's Josh Allen's division until it isn't. But, hey, Jets, go do it. Go prove it. You get 2 chances to directly take one off of these guys, so go do it.
I think at minimum what's awesome this year is the Jets are going to be a fun team to watch. As long as Justin Fields is healthy, they're just going to be interesting and fun. And I was so impressed with Justin Fields. He didn't just run around like he did for the Steelers last year. Like, he was winning from the pocket and making throws. Like, it was one of his best games I think we've seen of his career.
Yeah, I think it has to be. So maybe they're figuring out that rhythm, right? And big Garrett Wilson day too. Bummer about how that play ended because he had such a that game ended because he had such a good game.
Yeah.
But it maybe it'll be a little more interesting than we think. Is all I'm saying.
All I'm saying is I know we do like the Madman's best bets at the end of the week. Jets with some points. Sounding very, very enticing to me against the Bills this week. But with that being said, that is going to do it for today's edition of Locked On NFL. I am your host, the Madman, Tyler Rowland, for my co-host, the Brain, Luke Braun, as we tell you every episode. Thanks for tuning in, and stay safe out there.